Okay, welcome. It's nice to see you ladies. So today we thought we would spend some time celebrating successes. I asked a few people if they would be willing to share only because I knew of their exciting things going on, but some of you might have exciting things happening that I don't know about. So I hope that you'll share, especially since we have a small group. So this idea came up in one of our previous meetings when we were sort of generating what would people like to do in our future gatherings. And success stories came up. People said, like, what are the small wins happening in your classes? Did you come up with a reading that really worked? Or was there an assignment that went well or something like that? So any kind of win, big or small, is fair game for sharing. So Karen Betts is one of the people I know has exciting things going on at her university. So Karen, do you mind going first?
Sure. I hope I'm back far enough. I went to the eye doctor, so this is majorly dilated here, so just don't look at this eye.
Yeah, my
Okay.
eyes are too bad to be able to pick that up. So
Okay, good. Okay, so we in Indiana higher ed institutions had an opportunity to apply for two grants from the Lilly Endowment, and the first was a planning grant, and so we applied for that and we received that. We're in the midst of planning for the implementation grant now, which is due in April. But the planning grant will allow us a few things. One, to make sure that all of our undergrad syllabi are aligned to the science, and then our graduate programs are also aligned. And so part of that work will be us making a visit to Mount St. Joe to see what their undergraduate programs look like. We're also having some of our faculty attend the summit this summer. And Stephanie is so graciously supporting me as I work to bring a master's in reading science to our institution. And we're going to kick off that work by offering a reading science certificate right now, which will start in May. And that will then lead into a master's degree. So we need to go through the process of getting that approved by the Department of Ed. But so we're excited. Lots of moving parts and lots of fun things to consider, especially as we plan for the next grant. So that's our good news.
do you have any sense of how this Lilly grant came about? Like, every state is wishing they had an Eli Lilly Foundation that would give them a ginormous grant.
I know. And surprisingly, not all higher ed institutions applied for that. So
Really?
I know it's a missed opportunity for some, but they also are supporting K-12 with that as well. And so part of our we have the opportunity to support K-12 schools through the grant as well, because I don't think a lot of K-12 schools think about using their universities as people who can provide, professional development. But I do not know how that came about, but Jamie is knowledgeable and has lots of more connections than I do. Do you know, Jamie?
I only know a teeny tiny bit. I know that the Eli Lilly Foundation has always had an education focus. And really for the last 17 to 20 years, they've invested in more of a volunteer approach to addressing the education needs that they see in the community. And that has been giving employees release time to go into schools. Usually it's Indianapolis Public Schools, to do a program they call Read Up. And that has been a costly program that has not produced outcomes that have shown that it's really made an impact in literacy. So I think that this has been a multi-year reevaluation of where they're putting their resources. That's the little background that I know. I'm sure there were lots of other ingredients in the mix.
Thank you,
Well,
Jamie.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. And I'm excited about the ways that you're using your grant funds, Karen. It's awesome. Let's see. I know Lindsay Grow is here, and Lindsay has some similar exciting changes happening in her program.
Yeah, I just got the letter in the mail today of our approval. So we have been working about a year, I think, to I'm at Grandview University in Iowa, and Iowa set up a dyslexia specialist endorsement. But the Iowa Reading Research Center needed to run the pilot group first, and then other institutions were allowed to apply after that. So that window was opened, and we have been working, thanks to Tracy, Stephanie here have been helping, and others, and kind of put that all together. And so the dyslexia endorsement was approved, and we're going to do a science of reading kind of certificate along with it. So yay!
That's awesome.
Exciting. So hopefully we'll get our marketing team launching it and be set to go. So
Yeah, definitely. Both of you, Karen and Lindsay, when you have your programs up and running, your additional programs, make sure that you post in the Training Reading Rocket Scientists group so that people can spread the word about the new opportunities.
great, thank you.
Sorry, I'm distracted by responding to people with the link to get in. So they're texting and emailing me. So I'm just continuing to send the link out to folks. Okay, let's see. Helene has some exciting partnership to share that she's been working on with PD.
Oh, I don't know that they're that exciting, but they are. You had been emailing with me about inroads, ways to try and make connections. And so I'm just one faculty member who's trying to do this. I'm in New Jersey. And so there's two ways that I have found to kind of connect with practicing teachers. And one was to sort of talk to the teachers whose classrooms I'm in, because my students are in practicums. So I was in 3 different schools. I guess it was in the fall, and just talking to teachers, kind of going into the rooms and seeing word walls and 3Qing and everything, and just kind of talking with them about, like I do recommend shifting the balance for teachers that are doing all the balanced literacy stuff, and just kind of chatting with some things about sound walls, et cetera. So teachers got kind of interested in sound walls. And so what I did was I offered a workshop on campus for any of those teachers that my students were in their classrooms. And I volunteered my time and bought materials, and they came on their time. It was all just volunteer. As a result of that, 2 principals asked me to come to their schools. And so I did after school events with them, with more faculty from the schools. I'll come back to that. And then the second thing that I did is our college does some, professional development workshops that are offered to the Professional Development School Network. And so I put one out there on, have you heard about sound walls? Are you curious about them? And so about 16 teachers came, and that's paid by the school district because they get lunch and some materials. And that has resulted in some schools contacting me to come back, because I think the follow-up is what's important. But it does seem to be a way in. So I give them access to a slideshow that, we start with a little bit of science of reading, and during the time that we're together, hour and a half, 2 hours, we do lots of stuff. We do sound box, we put a sound wall up, we do sound boxes, we do sound spelling mapping. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in there, and they get curious about, okay, I'd like to do more of this and know how to do it. So that's worked pretty well as an inroad. The one problem I had was I was under the impression that if the teachers were asking for this and the principals were asking for this, that it was okay for me to go to a school and do this, but the central office was not okay.
So in the district?
There is pushback from certain school districts about this, and not going through the central office. It can be problematic. I have a student teacher right now who tells me that in their building, which is very reader writer workshop, teachers have been told not to put up a sound wall.
Mm.
So it's, some of this stuff has become rather subversive activity for teachers and even for PD. So tread carefully. I
Wow.
guess.
Wow. Yeah, who would have thunk it?
Right. But yeah, so pretty soon there's one small school that a private school I'm going to work with, and it'll be extended PD. And then there's a very large elementary school of about 1,000 students that I'm going to start with later on in the spring. So it's a beginning. It's not systematic. It's not a grant. It's it's just sort of getting in there where you can.
Yeah, well, making it known that you're a resource in the community, and then, down the road, perhaps cultivating relationships with places where you can place your students, right? Finding the schools, finding the teachers who will support the way that your folks are trained. So I think that's a terrific success story. So thanks for sharing that. Anybody have questions for Helene?
I do. I'm just wondering if you have any technical support centers or anything like that near you. I work primarily as a consultant, and I would love to partner with a full-time professor to bridge that gap between, undergraduate studies and then where I pick up doing PD with in-service teachers. I think there's something really compelling about that. Just thinking about the fact that you have limited courses that you could even teach. And at some point there's a lot of constraints. And so we do have to pick up where you leave off. I think it would be interesting to partner with some consultants in your area who already have access to those school districts and work with teachers.
Yeah, there's one person who I used to do PD for, my colleagues and I called her the matchmaker. She was the person who knew the school districts and matched us up. And I've moved further away. So the places she knows are mostly in North Jersey, and I'm more Central Jersey now. But that's a good idea to find those people again and make those connections. And if I can connect with you, I'll do that.
I would love that.
I want to share.
Okay, Pam.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to share about sound walls. Not related to higher ed necessarily, but I know a school that I work with did a very innovative way to share sound. I call them sound spelling walls, sorry, but sound spelling walls. And they did what they would call sound wall socials. So they were very socially, augmented, but they had like foods that were related to what they would see on a sound wall, fricatives and, grapes and other things like that, and yogurt for the Y sound. So it was just fun. And what they did is a reading specialist reviewed what a sound wall is and gave them lots of information, but then they had everything ready for them so that they could transfer it into their practice. So it sounds similar to what you've done, but just the same way, like a very welcoming, collegial kind of no pressure. This is what it is. This is how we use it. This is how our kids are benefiting from it. But then had food that was related, and that was always helpful, I think, when we have food, but also had everything there to transfer it, and then offered to kind of help them set their own walls up. I think sometimes that's the biggest concern for teachers. I think, where should I put it? How should it be organized? Like those logistical things first, if they're taken care of, then you can really get into the what and the why and the how to use it. But just another add-on maybe to think about to the good work you've already done.
Thank you. Yeah, and I agree with you. It's like one workshop that I did, the principal was willing to give the teachers, I got a group license to a TPT product that would allow them to print out all the labels and the headers that they needed and the Sound Simple cards they needed. And that is just very helpful. Otherwise, teachers are, trying to figure out where they're going to get all the materials. A number of teachers have Foundations cards, or if they're using Benchmark, they have Benchmark cards. But still, it's like just the logistics of, like you say, where they're going to put it, how they're going to set it up. So that's why I feel like this one school, getting that introductory workshop got them interested, and now it's the follow-up so that you really use it. It's not something that should just sit on the wall and doesn't get used. So yeah, thank you.
And Pam, I think you're on a tight timeline, and I had asked you to share about your conference coming up
am.
this spring.
Actually, it was my husband's birthday and we were going out tonight, but we went out for his birthday on Tuesday night, but then I'm going to do the MSJ book study tonight. So I'm trying to squeeze in.
Oh, yeah. So
that. So do you
share about the conference, and then you're free to go if you need to.
Okay. Well, the National Summit was just such a success and such a wonderful event where everyone shared and collaborated and built these relationships that we're extending to today and beyond. And so we, the best form of flattery is to repeat what somebody else has done. And so the folks from Pennsylvania have had an ongoing Pennsylvania task force, and are also replicating the National Summit in Pennsylvania with Pennsylvania universities in May of 2023, May 16th, 2023. So I'm going to put in the chat the flyer. Nope, that was the Zoom meeting. Let me grab that real quick for you guys.
So your task force has been for higher ed folks?
Yes, it's been for higher ed. Let me just grab that real quick for you because I just pulled that down. It's been for higher ed institutions. We've been working across our state for a while to embed best practices in the science of reading and structured literacy in legislation, and we have passed legislation. And so it's really caused quite a stir in our field. And we really want to be very supportive of our higher ed institutions and supporting them. We established program framework guidelines that are the IDA knowledge and practice standards. And a lot of the information is quite new to a lot of the universities. We do have the most universities in the country that are IDA accredited.
Mm-hmm.
Even still, that's not as nearly as many as we would like in Pennsylvania. And so this is really meant to be a very helpful. I'm sorry, it keeps doing the Zoom link. I'll have to send it along, but it to be very helpful, very similar to what has done national. Like I said, it's a sincere form of flattery. We will be sharing resources for like syllabi and courses and textbook selection and field placement. Also some content knowledge around structured literacy, phonemic awareness, and phonics, like some of the big five, going a little bit deeper into that. And we'll have two keynote speakers. They will be Dr. Louise Spear-Swirling, who's really considered, I think, the international expert in structured literacy. She'll be our first keynote. And then Dr. Althea Caldera from the Reading League will be our luncheon speaker. We want to make sure that there's culturally responsive sustaining education that are enmeshed with structured literacy. In our state, we passed legislation in 3 areas: structured literacy, professional ethics, and culturally relevant sustaining education program framework guidelines. And the program framework guidelines are really competencies related to those areas. So it's impacted our chapter 49, which is our teacher certification. So all 5 certification areas, the main ones, pre-K 4, 4 to 8, English learners, reading specialists, and pre-K to 12 special education now are required to engage in structured literacy training and in-service teachers, as well as embedding into coursework. So the coursework becomes live August 1st, 2024, and the school districts will have to have it in part of their Act 48, their continuing education, beginning the 23-24 school year. And so I wrote a course in structured literacy with the Pennsylvania Department of Education that's free to all Pennsylvania educators, and Patton has created structured literacy and science of reading modules along with the National Center for Improving Literacy that will launch in just about a week from now to support the field. But our higher ed institutions, we really want to support them. They were part of a higher ed work group that worked with Patton leading facilitation discussions for a number of weeks last summer to determine what would be the competencies related to structural literacy. And of course, we would always default to the IDA knowledge and practice standards when we're thinking about what teachers should know and be able to do in relation to structural literacy. It's pretty much a no-brainer. But it was a very robust and really great conversation over those many weeks to select the IDA knowledge and practice standards, and working with IDA to select those standards so they could be aligned in Chapter 49 and Act 55. So they are aligned with structural literacy in our state. So we're just in the process of, working together so that we can support our higher institutions, so that not everyone's trying to reinvent the wheel. Learn from one another, share best practices, continuing that network, much like has happened with the National Summit. We hope that this is the first of many ongoing conversations of support as that August 1, 2024, comes before you know it. So I will get that picture, my goodness gracious, and share that with you, the flyer. But also the great part about the summit is we have our literacy advocacy organizations across the state who are supporting it. So Decoding Dyslexia Pennsylvania branch of IDA, the Reading League Pennsylvania, Read by Fourth, which is an advocacy group in the Philadelphia area, KSLA. So you have literacy organizations across the state who are supporting it, and then Patton is offering the space for the summit at no cost. So that will be free. And we're anticipating about 200 and perhaps even more. We've had a really good response. We have had to save the date out there for a while, but the registration is going to go up this week. But we have had over 30 volunteers for those small group sessions, similar to what we did at the National Summit, again, on those topics related to coursework, syllabi, the selection of text, field placement, all of that. So lots of different places for people who have choice and who have note takers. So it's going to sound very familiar to anyone who was at the National Summit. But we're pretty excited about the conversation that we'll have and the way we can support one another, and what might happen next. So
It's an amazing networking opportunity that you're providing.
Well, it's a task force. It's a team that's been working. We were working long before this, but it will continue working long after it. But it really is a team that's been working, for probably a number of years now. But we feel fortunate that our state is finally taking some movement to align with structured literacy and the science of reading. We are quite far behind many other states, but we are not where we were. So we're excited about legislators in policy who are interested in even moving us further along. So we'll see. It's a lot to undertake, but this is a very supportive and helpful, just like the summit was, very collegial, supportive way to work, with one another.
It's awesome.
And sorry, I don't know why I keep copying my Zoom link in there, because
I've had trouble,
trying to get in here.
copying links into the Zoom chat. So
But I will put the flyer in so everyone can see it, and I will share with you, Stephanie, like the link, just so you have it, for registration when it comes up, so you can just kind of check it out a little bit more. So does anybody have any questions?
anybody else have ways that within your state, the university folks are gathering at events or informal kinds of book studies? Or I know Minnesota has a really long running higher ed. I don't know if they call theirs a task force, or I can't remember the term that they use, but anybody else have anything like that going on?
I'm Lisa Clayton from the University of North Alabama, and I met you, Stephanie, at
Yes.
the Higher Ed Summit. And I think I spoke to you about this, but we had our first Science of Reading and Higher Education Symposium for the state of Alabama, and we hosted it. So we were definitely on a very novice and emerging level. Paige Rainey on here as well was there. She presented at it. I presented at it. But we were very fortunate to have a representative from almost every single university in the state. So,
Wow.
so we are beginning, but Paige and I were chatting back and forth. We still have a long way to go, but we're definitely working towards it. So
That's wonderful. Do you have any words of wisdom for Pam, who's about to host one in Pennsylvania?
Yes, please. We'll take any advice that you have.
I mean, Paige, you can unmute, but it sounds like y'all are doing an amazing job.
Well,
Paige,
I don't know. We're doing our best. I did fail to mention that we did get funding from a foundation also to support as well. I think it was like $25,000. So that's paying for like lunch and speakers and any travel, difficulties that universities might have. We're having it in Harrisburg, which is central location, but not if you live in Pittsburgh. So we're also, kind of helping out with that, but we feel fortunate that we have that funding to kind of help with those expenses as well.
Yes, Stephanie, we had a great event in Florence at Lisa's university, and we had to come all the way from Mobile. It was like almost 6-hour drive, but we just did it, and we had a great time. I made sure our literacy faculty was there. I'm the chair, so because I needed to know the big picture and what they needed from me, and scheduling and time for professional learning and connections with the schools. And we did a presentation on just very practical things. And really, from what we've learned from all of you about the groups, there was just not an awareness in our state about this group. And then we call it the Second Friday group, the Community of Practice group. And so we just brought a lot of awareness. We had Barksdale Institute in our state prior to the conference with, and that was not really totally, just to be transparent, it was hard to receive some of those comments about, where people are. But if you took it as an opportunity to get better, it really can help you and seek out. We called it the help we've gotten from national experts has made us better. And we're on a journey. We're not there, but these are the textbook transitions we're making. These are the syllabi transitions we're making. This is the course redesign that we're doing. And it was uplifting. It really was, to know that higher ed is going to start talking across the state of Alabama. Our State Department was there. We had state legislators who were there. We had state board members they knew about it. The author of our Literacy Act was there. She sat in our session and has reached out to me since then. At least, if nothing else, it's starting a conversation about what higher ed can contribute and what we should be able to do.
That's awesome. Well, I love the positive frame that you put to the work, that just the way that you're being positive and helpful to folks who might be more reluctant or uncertain about moving in that direction. That's great. Any other questions for Pam, Paige, and Lisa?
I do have to say one more thing. Lisa and her dean, Katie Kinney, they just started it. Like, somebody has to start.
Yeah. And
then other people have to say, oh, I'm coming. Yeah. And so that's how it has to just begin. And I have a phrase. I'm old. I'm a retired district administrator in the state, and I just go up to people now and say, "Oh, we're about to be friends," and might not know them, but it's how it begins. And I can't tell you the number of emails that we've had already back and forth, and that was on January 27th, and we're only a small amount into February, and so it's already beginning in us reaching out to people, them reaching out to us, and just this conversation that has to start.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Good for you. Love it. Let's see, Mackenzie, I was hoping that you would share today what you have going on.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually a graduate student. I'm in defending my dissertation this semester, hopefully, but I was tasked with aligning our writing course at the University of North Dakota to be more science of reading. I realigned our reading courses, and we went from like a D state level report card to an A this year. So that was really great. So they asked me to do that for writing as well, which was an honor, but also kind of scary. The last I had taught the course and it was very, writer workshop heavy, and kind of just really took it apart and started, dug into, all the resources I looked at the writing rope. I got that book. Best practices in writing instruction was another resource I used. The book study that I think it was Patan actually put on with the writing rope. I watched all of those videos as well. So a lot less focused on writer's workshop and much more focused now on sentence structure, paragraph structure, spelling, handwriting, things like that. So I'm not sure like how in depth you wanted me to go, Stephanie, but yeah, that was, it was hard. I posted a few times on the Facebook page asking like anyone to share their syllabus. And I don't know if there's just not a lot of writing courses out there, or if, that has been maybe one of the areas that's been slower to change, but I really had nothing to go off of. So if anyone wants to see mine, I'd be happy to share, and can always make it better, of course. Would love some feedback, because I really have been kind of the go-to in our department for science of reading, and by no means an expert. So yeah.
So what did you use, those texts that you mentioned, is that what you used for the students reading, or was that your background knowledge, or both?
A little of both, yeah.
Okay.
I took, for my own reading, for my own knowledge, I felt like I had a pretty good understanding, but I felt like those resources really just elevated it for me. And then I picked and chose within each like module kind of which text to refer to. So we use a combination of actually a lot of different textbooks, because I feel like, there's just some that talk about it better than others, especially for undergraduate students. Some of the stuff in like the Graham and Herbert, or Hebert, I'm not sure how you say his last name, text is a little like much, but yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone else here teaches a writing course, yeah, would love to collaborate. It's definitely not like a finished piece, but it's better than where it was. So.
And I just messaged you, Mackenzie.
And I taught the doctoral course in writing at MSJ last time, so happy to connect as well. And some friendly names there that you mentioned that we also, and some more. So happy to help.
Yeah, I think writing is an area that people struggle with, because from our own experience, we don't have as much background, I think, with explicitly teaching writing. It's always been a little bit more, I don't know, like you're saying, the writer's workshop kind of approach is common, and assessment is a little bit more tricky of writing. And there's also, like you said, there's just not a slam dunk text that makes it easy, I think. So.
Yeah, I had even considered, the writing revolution, but I don't know, that just, it was much more practical, I think. And what if you go into a school that doesn't use the writing revolution, right? But there were some good, there are some good pieces in there for sure. But yeah, I definitely agree with that, Stephanie.
Lysandra, would you share what you put in the chat?
I put two things in. One complaint, because they just pushed writing into the SPED reading intervention course, which of course, when you're talking K to 12, they take the foundational course from elementary ed. And then when they take the one SPED course, it's like K to 12, everything. And now they put writing in there, and that's really hard. But I had the pleasure of working with Amber Ray, and she was Steve Graham's doc student when I was at the University of Hawaii, and she redesigned our writing course, and she had to co-teach it with a visual art elementary faculty member. And she did it SRSD. It was like the best course. Every single student at the end said, I'm a better writer. Not only am I a better writer, but I can teach it now. And it was because she was so like, so many of us, I'm a generalist. I'm like, I've become a reading specialist out of necessity because my job is pushing me in that direction, but it wasn't in my doc program. So it's so hard when you're like, oh, you can just fit writing, that's literacy. And I'm like, not when it would be if I was teaching the workshop model and I wasn't actually teaching it, but to really be able to teach it well. I mean, I've taken writing revolution courses. It's been helpful, but it just feels like they're asking so much. And I don't think sometimes the policy really understands what they're asking. And then some of the people that make the decisions of how we meet the basics of that policies at our university, at many universities. I mean, my department's wonderful. I love everybody I work with, but they're not going to add another class. So there you are. And we just made our master's program 1 year. So that foundation course you take in 3 weeks in the summer, and then you take your SPED reading and writing intervention course with me, and that's your literacy. I hope all your mouths are on the floor.
Yeah, that's a challenge. So how can people access information about Amber Ray's course?
I don't know. I could ask her. I have all her old syllabi and stuff because when I taught at the University of Hawaii, we did get a grant from OSEP, and only because of that, before they opened the Cedar Center, which I think is wonderful, we had a last 325T. We got paid for a year to just work together as faculty across programs. Every one of us had a buyout for that full year, and then we had money to pay people to co-teach classes for the next 5 years, so that every course was co-taught. It was like the most amazing professional development from my side, and the first time that I stopped blaming general ed teachers and faculty. Like, it gave me the perspective of, I think what we're now seeing is that they didn't know. Like, I think I came before sold a story in some Emily Hamford's work, even though I've been in the schools, I'm like, I had such a chip on, you knew better and you're still doing it wrong. I think they were duped, but anyway, I'll ask Amber if I can share the syllabi she had developed there. I know she also was doing work for ACT writing and had developed an SRSD module for high school students. And so she'd done some of that work. She tutored my son for ACT writing. Anyway, nice. I'll ask her and see if I can put it and then post it in the Facebook group.
Yeah, that'd be great. Definitely an area people are looking for resources in. Oh, Bethany is here. I asked Bethany to share about what she's been up to.
Hello, this is the first time I'm able and lucky enough to join. There's always
welcome.
Something. I'm in Washington State. I work at City University of Seattle, and a couple of things of note. I put through 2 programs for IDA accreditation. They are currently under review, so fingers crossed there. Last Monday, I met with the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Ragdahl, as a member or a representative of higher education and the Reading League Washington. I met along with Decoding Dyslexia Washington and ReadWA, and we went to discuss how we can help assist with change in legislation. And I made sure to put in a plug and a pin for higher education as well. And it seemed like their overall feeling, the superintendent, was that higher education, we're too far behind the curve. It's going to take too long to catch up. We need to work on basically PD and things now. And I kind of countered by saying, well, you have to think about it as almost a preventative measure or an investment, so that teachers that are coming in, pre-service teachers coming in, they are prepared and ready already with the science of reading, rather than needing to be retrained and then joining a group called what I should have learned in college, essentially. So we were received well, and I have joined a team to look at the strategic plan, and I'm going to be helping to focus on what higher education can do, talking with PESB in our state, talking with WACD, thinking about changing the reading standards, which were currently written in 2013. Not that that's not, I mean, they could still be good, but I think that they need to be revised so that then the assessment, the Pearson assessment, is different for Washington State reading endorsement licensure. So working on that with OSPI and hoping we get IDA accredited.
You've been super busy. That's awesome. Yeah. Again, great networks and connections and partnerships that you're leveraging. That's what I love about everything that you all are sharing. Do you have any tips for folks about the IDA accreditation process? Do you have any suggestions, pitfalls to avoid?
For accreditation, I recommend joining the pipeline. You can go fast track or you can join the pipeline. We went through the pipeline process and it's really helpful. You get sessions, you get seminars, and you have a lot more support. And I also recommend finding people that can help support you and with the work. So essentially making sure that you have connections, you're networking, you have support, you have reviewers and subject matter experts that can help the work, but also the pipeline that IDA provides is also really helpful.
Describe the pipeline.
So essentially you apply for the accreditation and then you have a couple options. You can fast track, which basically basically apply, and it's a 5-part application, and you have to get it done within 3 months and then just submit it, and it has to be ready and perfect. Whereas the pipeline, it's the same thing, same submission. However, you have about a year to work on it. I started in April and then I had to turn it in October. So that's actually not a year at all. It felt like it though. And so then every month you have a meeting for each part of the application. So you talk about who is your the faculty that'll be there. How do you prove that they are highly qualified? What does your curriculum look like? Do you plan on doing a practicum or not? So it's just kind of takes each application component, takes 1 month to look at it piece by piece. There's a seminar with questions. And then after the seminar, 4 to 6 weeks after, you have to submit a rough draft. And then the rough draft is then reviewed and you'll get feedback returned. So that's another really helpful component for the fast track option. You don't get any feedback. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit essentially. Whereas the pipeline, you get some ongoing feedback from the specialists to let you know, oh, you're missing this component, add this before your final submission at the end of the pipeline's process.
That's great. I wasn't aware of that level of support. Pam, you said in the chat that somebody spoke to this at the summit in Syracuse.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, I just cannot remember her name. I can see her.
Was
face.
it Mary Wennerston?
Yes,
who
it
came?
was Mary.
Okay.
She leads that work. And so one of our small groups was Mary, just presenting the process and support for that. And so there will be a presentation and resources from Mary, as well as notes from the note taker in our drive. So that might be helpful to folks too.
Yeah, let me put the link to
Yeah,
that.
that's what Bethany said, yes. Yeah, I could see her face, and thank you for jogging my memory about her name.
Bethany, I have a question.
Yeah.
For Bethany, I'm wondering if your program was already in existence and had been running and then you went through the IDA process, or was this one that you had developed and haven't implemented yet?
That is a very good question. I submitted 2 programs, the reading endorsement program, which is 4 courses that was already in existence, but it was very outdated. One of the projects was doing a running record. So I had to revise all 4 of the courses. And then the other courses for MIT, the Master in Teaching program, and that was brand new. And I was able to get a writing course added. They originally wanted to do 4, and I asked if I can have 1 more. So I have 5 courses I submitted for writing, and that was completely brand new from scratch.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get a link to the small group sessions at the summit, and I'm having the same kind of copy and paste error happening that Pam was struggling with.
Sorry, we're
So-
kindred spirits there.
I know, it's okay. There, finally got the right one. It kept wanting to paste the last thing I had pasted to someone, not let me copy the new link. So Bethany, how long do you have to wait until you find out about the accreditation?
Submission and initial review started in November, and I just got word in January that it is sent to now a initial review team. They have 4 to 6 weeks. And then that review team, once they make sure all components are complete, they then pass it on to the final approval team, which takes another 4 to 6 weeks.
Is there a site visit involved in the process, or is it?
I did
all
not apply
documentation?
for Accreditation Plus, so that would be with the practicum, but I do plan on tacking that on when I have more bandwidth, I hope. So there was no site visit, but if you do the practicum or Accreditation Plus, there is a site visit.
Gotcha. Good to know. Other questions, other successes to share? Big or small?
Success that's very small, not really small. And I'm having a little, maybe you can help me. I'm having a little moral issue with it. I presented, the school board asked for, they were doing like a parent information meeting, and a couple of us from the university came, and a number of parents emailed me and said, we know that, because the dyslexia, the meta-analysis we just did one of a small cog. Anyway, so these parents that are not getting their needs met in the local schools are coming to the university, all of them parents with children with intellectual disabilities, asking us to then tutor them. And we have a reading tutor center at the university, but I can have my students go do it, get paid for it right before my reading class, and then use that data and talk to them and make it better. But I've done that with field experiences, but for some reason, having the parents pay to come to the center, so then it's only parents that have transportation, only parent, it feels really like reading is already privileged, but they are not getting services. Like poor students with intellectual disabilities are automatically put in the curriculum base. It doesn't or we use this strange base system here in Virginia too. I don't really understand, but the C-base means alternative assessment.
Oh, as far as like your state,
they don't do the
accountability.
State. They don't do the state. And so then why would you need to teach a kid to read if they're not going to take the state level assessment?
Yeah, that's a bad outcome.
Working
right?
with having my students work with these adorable kids that are so eager and so wonderful and have every right to learn how to read. But there is something about the all white families, all have money, all that makes me a little uncomfortable about the whole thing of we provide the service to the schools for a field experience, the same tutoring without fee, and they did it last semester. And so I should just get over it because, their families choosing to, but somehow having it connected to class, bringing their data into my class makes it feel that it's a universe, that I'm advocating for them to do it.
Yeah, I get you. So, so your clinic at the university, or
they pay, yeah. Oh, the McGuffey Reading Center, and they also have the Sheila Johnson Center. So it's an assessment center, and they do counseling and speech pathology and reading intervention and psychological assessments. And we have many programs that get training for their students through the school psych and this clinical psych.
And they all charge a fee for?
There is some free, but the cutoff is, I'm not some free services. I'm not sure how the funding goes, and they charge insurance. It's one of the UVA medical centers kind of.
And the district where these families have their children in school is not a district that you have a relationship with?
I do have a relationship with it. The parents saw that I was on the panel, and that is what cued them to.
So could your students do tutoring as part of their?
They do that in
with
the schools.
These students? Not
with these students. I don't think. The way the school does things with students with Down syndrome, especially, I'm taking up too much time. Y'all don't want to help me problem solve.
Well, I don't know. Somebody here might have a good solution for you.
This isn't they're already in the field other hours a week. This would be them getting paid by the center. So yay, good, because all my students are poor, the poor college students kind of thing. And so that would be good. But the center charging the families and providing this extra level. So yes, we do reading intervention in the schools as one of their field practicums, but this is sort of an outside service and it's only accessible if you can bring your child to the center, if you can pay the fees. So, but then on the other hand, one of my good friend Ben's son would never learn how to read if we didn't do it. So I'm going to do it anyway, but I'm just having a little moral dilemma.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about a presentation I saw Chris Lemons do like a while back, because he has
he works with intellectual disabilities, and he has a teaching exceptional children. I mean, basically we're doing the same thing that they're doing with the other kids. It's like you're just going to have more opportunities to respond and feedback, and it's going to take longer, but the skills are the same.
I was just hearing him talk about like what he was doing with his undergrads, and then also a program working with parents to work with their own kids on like code-based instruction. So it might be worth, maybe reaching out to him or into some of that work, looking at his programs that he has going on, especially as you think about the kids with ID. Just a thought.
Thank you. My daughter's at Stanford, and her office, and she's in a grad school, is near Chris's new office over at Stanford. So we saw him last time we were out there. I'm going this summer, so I'll just.
Nice. Anybody else have other thoughts? Have you navigated this kind of situation? Yeah, you're stuck there, I think, with you want to be able to connect those families to the supports that their kids need. Yeah,
I think if we end up extending it and then try to do some without, like, if faculty volunteer to do some of the actual work, the assessments and things, then they wouldn't have to charge a center, and then hopefully and we're doing all the training for the new hires, although it's not really new training because it's part of the class that they're taking with me. So it sort of feels like it is work, but it's not really work, because there is benefit to the community. I just wish there was a way to more easily make it.
Yeah.
And how are people doing the field experiences that go? In Hawaii, we had better partners so that our students went out 4 days a week for 2 hours every day, and they'd have 4 students in that time and do intervention, 4 different students for the whole semester. Their progress was amazing in the students and in my candidates. Here, they say their practicum is 5 hours a week, but they go 1 day a week, and they really, they only end up maybe working with the student an hour because of the transportation. They're like, the university saying, we can't make a student drive out to the school for half an hour, 4 days a week. But the schools aren't giving us enough students to make it. And then we also can't make placements that are only focused on reading 20 hours a week, because that's our internship. So you have to be in the classroom full time. So I think it's just complex. And I didn't realize in Hawaii, where I got to own the students for 2 full years, that and here I only have a regular major. It's just strange. How do you get it all done?
That's the $1 million question, right? Everybody's struggling with, how do you get it all done? Yeah, nobody feels like they have enough courses or enough time or enough field work. Yeah. Yep. So any other successes to share? We're just coming up on the top of the hour, so I don't want to leave anybody out. It's been really fun to listen to what you all have going on. I mean, talk about needing more time. You are busy, busy people, and you're the ones out there making this happen and sharing what you're doing with so many others. So I just have great respect for the work you all are doing. Any last thoughts? Oh, I need to let you know about upcoming events. So I believe it's May 3rd. It's a Wednesday. We're adding an additional meeting as a follow-up from the summit in Syracuse. So that's an additional meeting that wasn't on our original flyer. It's going to be Wednesday, May 3rd at 4 p.m. Eastern. Jean Stockard from the University of Oregon is sharing her meta-analysis on direct instruction. So I had a chance to hear a preview of it, and I thought the higher ed group needs to hear this information. So it's decades of research. I think you'll really enjoy learning more about it. So we don't have, oh, go ahead.
Oh, hey, Stephanie, I was going to say one thing just that's come up that's been a good thing at Spring Hill College.
Yes, thank
So I'm
you.
new to higher ed, and my two favorite new groups that I didn't really realize were available to me. The first one is advancement, and then the second one is the marketing department. And so I have made friends with these people, and I will tell you, this has been incredible, but they have secured and helped me secure a donor that is going to fund for our pre-service teachers for the next while through funding from that family for letters to be embedded in our coursework. And so unbelievable, but they have access to people who I don't. And you know, they told me, they sort of trained and said, you have to go with us because you're the teacher in what you want. We'll do the asking. We're not asking you to do that. We'll do that part, but you have to explain what this is. And that has been like a rah-rah down our hallway, because we realize we have to reach out, and we're okay with that. We have to reach out and use our resources on campus, people who can help us get what we need. So that's
so you
been a
partnered with your university advancement
Mhm.
folks, like the fundraisers,
That's right.
who are helping you go out and find
Donors.
private donations to support your work.
Yep.
Woo, brilliant.
I made a video even this morning, and another one was it yesterday? I don't, they all run together. And they organize, you know, all these events like Give Day and
Yeah.
all these things that you just kind of read on your email and go, oh, whatever. And I kind of started tapping into their work and just said, hey, you want to come to my office and drink coffee? And I would like to tell you what we need.
Yeah.
And they begin to go out and find people who care about that kind of thing. And how much would it be? And what exactly is it? And so, you know, it's like a one-page little blurb that I just put together, and actually met with the donor myself, with the team, the advancement team. So I'm learning a lot from them, which is kind of fun. And they know they have contacts, a network that I don't have.
Yeah.
But people, if they're informed and they see a return on an investment, which is not hard to explain when you put it in those terms, that's been a lot of fun, because it's just, you know, it takes a big worry off of, you know, where am I going to get this? How am I going to make this happen?
Yeah.
Ask people.
That's a great suggestion. Have other people thought about that? Because that wouldn't occur to me. Yeah. That's awesome. Yay. Thanks for sliding that in there. Great strategy. Okay, so it was really fun to see all of you and hear about the work that you're doing. And Pam, I know you're on to the next meeting. So thanks everybody for being here, and keep posting your questions and resources to share in that Facebook group. It's a great way to stay connected. So hopefully I'll see you May 3rd. Anybody going to Plain Talk? I'll see you at Plain Talk. Yeah, hope to run into you there. All right, have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.